Good morning, everyone. My name is Arthur. I'm technical director from Skybox Security, responsible for your region. Glad to be here. So we will talk a little bit about Skybox and cyber security risk management made simple. So who we are? We are a private company. We're still a private company. We're growing very, very fast. As a matter of fact, past 2 years, we tripled our size. Our solution has been recognized in many big organizations, and for that we received a couple of good awards for risk management and vulnerability in the risk management solutions. So what we are providing? Basically, Skybox is an analytic platform for managing information security processes. Okay, so it's a platform, and roughly it could be divided to 2 parts. The bottom one, simple security policy management. Everyone is talking about that today. Firewall management, audit compliance, policies, changes on the firewalls, secure changes. So 3 modules over there. Firewall assurance, firewall auditing and analysis, policy compliance of the firewall, network assurance, the same for the networks, from point A to point B across all devices on all infrastructure. Change manager, it's a workflow helping us to plan the change, implement the change, check the change before implementation by policy compliance, and providing visibility for vulnerabilities could be exposed on that change. So the entire platform was designed in a mind to reduce risk and provide the visibility for organization. So the upper level is vulnerability and threat management, vulnerability control, managing the full life cycle of vulnerability from the point of discovery to prioritization and then moving to remediation, of course. A lot of reports recently saying that most of our cyber incidents could be avoided by using standard security controls. But still, we are reading in the media, in newspapers, everywhere, some new cyber security incident, like famous WannaCry, for example. Okay, and why this is happening? This is happening because our surface, our attack surface, changing all the time. First of all, we have limited visibility. The second of all, we have data silos. We come in with new technologies. We come in with the cloud, new data center. We're extending our network. It's complexity. Okay, so we're scaling. We have new regulations like GDPR, for example. It's 1 year, but we're still struggling with the mapping of all of these things and managing it. One of major things is the limited staff. We have not enough manpower to conduct all these changes. We have limited budget. We have operational silos, of course. People not talking to each other. Teams are not communicating. We're wasting time on communications, etc., etc. So the platform are helping to provide a visibility. What we are doing, our main goal is modeling the attack surface for organization. What does it mean? The attack surface is our basically security controls, our VPNs, firewalls, IPS devices. And then we are coming to a network, routing devices, load balancers, etc., multiple vendors inside of the infrastructure. But our organization is not only the infrastructure security controls. Not all of our organizations are based on infrastructure. Our organizations are assets, are services we provide into our customers externally, internally. And on assets and on infrastructure, there are vulnerabilities. And the bad guys, bots, girls, cats, whatever, living out there. So we have to protect our assets. We have to reduce risk for our organizations. That's what's important. So, as I mentioned, Skybox is a platform. And to be in control and provide you visibility and provide the analytics over the, all of these things, we're connecting to many different vendors from security point of space, from IT environments, from OT environments, SCADA, operationals. Skoda was mentioned and Volkswagen Group was mentioned previously. So many critical infrastructures or industrial networks today connected to the internet, connected to outside world, and there are threats. And just not manufacturing cars 1 week is a huge damage to organization from the business perspective. And hitting, let's say, power infrastructure will have major effects on people, on people's lives. It's already something really different, something new. It's a threat. So these are technology partners we are connecting, not all of them, of course. And what Skybox Security provides next is our own intelligence feed combined in Skybox Research Lab. We're doing investigations and research in dark web, and of course we're participating in security programs and collaboration with security labs like ours to provide to the customer few things. First of all, correlation between vulnerability itself just exists in our network and vulnerability which is exploited in the wild. The same example I will use, the WannaCry. WannaCry was released and it was a medium vulnerability and nobody basically cares about that. It's a medium, right? And then newspapers come in and the big hit and it became critical. But a couple of months before, we already knew that vulnerability is exploited in the wild. So exploited in the wild, let's say it's a cyber weapon. It's not just a vulnerability. It has malware already implemented. It has it participated in some kits, etc., etc. So this is what intelligence feed is providing. And most of it, we're providing a solution, a recommendation, based on the context, based on what we learned and what we can see in the organization. So how it's working? If we are talking about a firewall and security policy management, so the basic stuff starting from optimization and cleanup. Our devices has a life cycle, and as most IT or networking guys will say, it's working, don't touch, and this is happening all the time. So the device suddenly has 2,000, 3,000, 8,000 rules, and nobody has no idea why. Okay, so the first thing is optimization and cleanup. Then we move into policy compliance because we already do some cleaning, so we have to maintain our policy on some level. So it's a policy compliance, and we're helping here. Once the policy compliance is achieved on certain level, we would like to maintain it and increase, improve. So it's a workflow, creation workflow. We would like to change something. We are changing something, we're creating new or demoting, and we have to check it before actually the change was done. Recertification. Our projects are coming, our projects are going. Servers, virtuals, clouds, whatever environment, it's live. So life cycle and the recertification of rules. The policy changes, so we have to do recertification. And of course, the provisioning. So vulnerability and threat management, discovery. You have multiple tools already implemented, like scanners, vulnerability assessment, vulnerability management tools. They has only one issue. Most of them, if not all of them, was born as a scanner. So you opened all the gates to them to do their job. They has no idea about firewall, they has no idea about IPSs. Most of them today, to be precise and quick, installing agents. So they're sitting on your asset. They're doing inventory basically, and they has no idea about security controls. So discovery and prioritization. Prioritization today we are doing mostly by CVSS score. Okay, it's a critical vulnerability, panic. But what happening if that vulnerability actually sitting on not critical asset and actually it's protected by IPS? Is it still critical for us? Not really. So first of all, building the infrastructure model and building the map. And from the map, we can understand the path, how the traffic is flowing, what is allowed, what is blocked. And access path analysis providing us and used for many interesting cases. First of all, to realize that the traffic is going. Okay, we have to provide access to applications, to services, and we can make sure it's indeed working. On the other hand, we can check if it's not working. Okay, so it's used for, first of all, vulnerability prioritization via attack simulation. So if the system finds a way to the asset, an asset has vulnerability on the same port, for example, it's accessible. So I can implement an exploit, and I can basically attack. Okay? So risk of vulnerability exposure in change management system. I would like to change my access and provide a new access to new system. So I'm creating it. The policy perspective is saying everything is good. Business allow that, policy violations not exist, fine. So we hit the button implementing the change. But what about vulnerabilities? Suddenly, we have additional layer which exists, but we don't see that because teams are not talking. Firewall operations has no idea about patches and has no idea what is the server on the finish point. And of course, basic one, zone-to-zone compliance from point A to point B, from DMZ to internal, from internal to external, etc., etc. Basic stuff. So after all, on the path analysis chain, the asset at the end, what is important. And the asset has many, many things we have to take into consideration. Is IP, interfaces, services, access, where it's located, zones, and finally, vulnerabilities and exploitability level of these vulnerabilities. So once again, firewall and security policy management. In the past 2 years, we are making a migration from our old Java-based GUI, still available, but we are moving to a new technology like everyone else. So this is the new dashboard already in production, already used by many customers, providing the ability to do flexible things, creating widgets, and get your data as you like. Zone-to-zone access compliance. Mapping of the zones on the networks, development, partner, external, finance, checking that only port 80 outdated information, it's supposed to be 443 HTTPS, accessible, or different ports, or no access at all. So we have to check it 24/7, not only on the audit. We have to understand what is open, what is closed, what is allowed, what is not. So the help on that, on policy compliance and maintaining the change and keeping the policy compliance on certain level, a change management workflow. Request, the technical detail, then the risk assessment. On all these stages, the platform will suggest things like you have to change the rule number 1 at firewall 1, you have to add rule number 2 in firewall 2, and you have to add rule number 3 in firewall 3. Very basic, sounds like, but very sophisticated in the background. And after all, when we calculated the path and what should be done, again, a vulnerability coming from inside. So a visibility to vulnerabilities, which will be open to that access because of the change. We have to take it in mind and consideration what we are doing. We're providing the access, or we are blocking, or we just reassigning the ticket to IT department to patch the system, to upgrade, or redesign something. Okay, so implementation, assigned to team for provisioning, and verification system will check that actually what we approved has been done. Not something else, not less, not more, exactly what was approved. Verifies, notify the customer at the end, it's done, you can work. So, as I said before, a creation workflow is a good path analysis. We're creating a new access. We are updating a new access. But what about the life cycle? We have to maintain life cycle of our rules inside of the firewalls because it's growing. It's always growing. And we are humans. Okay, we will forget things. We have multiple tasks. We have limited staff. So someone should open a ticket for us, set X, Y, Z have to be reviewed. We have violations on that. So let's take a decision again. That rule has to be inside of our firewall, or it's obsolete, we have to demote it. And of course, it's coming then to the provisioning workflow. We have to check when we are deleting or disabling the rule, it's not hitting our business. After all, we are protecting or we are working with organization, in most cases, which earns money, or critical infrastructure has effect on people's lives, or we're providing the services, public services. Vulnerability, vulnerability and threat manager. So attack simulation, prioritization, and architecture. These two at the bottom is your potential threat. All vulnerabilities inside of your organization based on your scanner work and reports, based on vulnerability assessments from scanner or scanless. This is a huge amount of vulnerabilities we have. Do we have the time to patch them all? This is the best solution, to patch them all. We have no time. In some system, we have no patches. Okay, so we're doing prioritization by critical severity. Okay, CVSS score. This could be a potential or imminent threat, like a critical vulnerability. Oh, it's a critical vulnerability. We have to take care on that. Yes? No? Basically, yes, but we have not enough time. Or might be, even on the critical vulnerability, we have no patch. So, vulnerabilities which are exploitable. This is an interesting thing. Exploit is available, so anyone can shoot that exploit to our vulnerability and basically do an attack. But does that exploited vulnerability accessible in our context, in our organizations? The answer is tricky. Basically, many of organizations has no idea. Because many of security controls, many of visualization tools like network monitoring or others providing the network modeling, they're not looking on the security issue of vulnerability, the correlation of the data. The next thing is exposed. Exposed could be vulnerability without an exploit. And again, it doesn't mean the exploit does not exist. We just don't know about that. So this is already imminent threat. The vulnerability is exposed to some vector, but has no known exploit. It probably sold on a black market for a price something like starting $50,000 or euro. Sometimes it's less, okay, but less they know. Okay, and then the top of the pyramid, imminent threat, is exposed and exploited. The vulnerability is accessible and it has known exploit. Panic, panic, panic. But these vulnerabilities, top, basically reports are saying they are between 1 to 3% of your entire baseline vulnerabilities. So it's very concentrated report. You can work on that. The process today. Many organizations has vulnerability management process of any kind, and basically this is looking like that. So we have our scanner, we have our information security team, risk analytics, working on vulnerabilities, finding vulnerabilities, providing reports by exploitability and severity, huge report, and then moving it to IT, to guys who are actually responsible to assets. And the guys responsible to assets managing patches. They're not managing IPSs, they're not managing firewalls. They have no idea about that. But we are sending them vulnerability lists. So what they can do is that. Basically, they have no idea about vulnerability. They have idea about KB from Microsoft, for example, or any other security bulletin, a patch. So the process is a little bit broken. the good process looks like that. First of all, prioritize vulnerabilities, then provide mitigation options, move it to the SOC, and do you really would like to miss the solution that is not patch? Or if the patch not available, what are you doing next? So Skybox in that case will provide you additional solutions like IPS signature that you can put inside of your IPS, of course, because you missed it, because we all are humans. We can miss things, okay? Firewall and security tagging and et cetera, compensating controls. And finally, the prioritized patch list with IP addresses, with patches exactly to be implemented in place on our environment by Operation IT. So attack simulation, the same map, right? Just to demonstrate that if I have an access to exposed vulnerability and I can hit it, this is an attack vector. And if I have IPS device which protected and not detection only, so it will be blocked. So my asset is protected. All reports saying, and basically this is these graphs from 2018 and 2017 by vulnerability count monthly. New vulnerabilities or actually vulnerabilities by different levels. And what you expect is count versus risk which these vulnerabilities are given to your organization. And what is happening, it's almost a flat line. So we have vulnerability count, we're doing patching, we're doing remediation, but risk is not going down. Why? Because we really don't know what vulnerability is making a lot of risk for our organization. So we're patching everything, trying to hit all of them, and of course we have no time and we miss a couple, so the risk is still on the same place. What you do expect is that the risk is going down, and this could be done only when you, let's say, fight with your eyes open. So you remediate and mitigate your vulnerabilities, which really making the risk to your organization. You really blocking the riskiest vulnerabilities and solving that instead of patching all, which is good decision, by the way. But we have no time. So to summarize, the platform, the suite, will connect to all informational structure, get asset sources, vulnerability from scanners and vulnerability assessment without any scanner, security intelligence, and finally, change tickets for configuration, for rules, for access policy compliance, multi-method vulnerability prioritization using the attack simulation, providing the calculation of the risk from these vulnerabilities, and then remediation options. And provisioning, we can do provisioning through change management. So at the end, who relies on us? So in the beginning, it was a slide of 800 customers all over the world. So the verticals, you can see many, many organizations from top 2,000 and all verticals like finance, government, energy, whatever. These organizations are already relying on us and using Skybox as a platform. For partners, what Skybox is doing. So reward programs, we have basically in our space unique proposition as a platform. We're covering many, many points of information security process, and we can be flexible. The customer can choose only one module from all platform or entire platform, and we can provide a solution. Discounts, enablement tools, and of course training. As a matter of fact, next scheduled training will be in Poland, in Warsaw, 11 and 12 of June. We still have places, so any of our partners would like to go there, you're welcome. RelNet has all links in the registration page. On our partner portal, there is a schedule and, again, registration link. Please register, go there, it's free. You have to pay the travel expenses, of course, but the training is free. Questions? Okay, if no questions, thank you very much for your attention. I will be here if you would like to discuss something, and if you will have a question, I can show the live demo, short live demo on the laptop. It's available to you. Thank you very much.